Rade. So just checking in. Going to do a couple more blog entries. These are a couple short ones. Currently I'm in Tucson, Arizona. I got here yesterday. Today I stopped by a couple temples and said hello to some people I know in the area. Met some new people in the area. Very lovely, very lovely. I have an event coming up on the 25th in this area as well. So if you're in the area and you're following along and you'd like to come out for a little Bhakti Yoga program, some guided meditation and kirtan music, please do so. So the blog entries that we're going to do today, they're from about a year ago still. I'm still following this same path in this giant circle, almost exactly a year later, which is really wild. Yeah, so the first blog entry is blog entry 161, and that is from January 30th of 2025. And so this is in meditation, just the understanding that on our spiritual journeys and as we're on our spiritual path, we have to allow ourselves space and time to grow and to develop and to change. Oftentimes, we're the hardest on ourselves than anything else, anybody else. And the reality of it is there has to be a learning curve involved, right? So one thing that I've found really helpful is I picture Radha and Krishna being like the parents, and I'm like the kid. So I'm like crashing into things, figuring out how to walk, messing things up, but getting better and growing each day. And it's important that we learn to hold space for ourselves in that way. As the days that we feel really close to God, enjoy it and embrace it. But on the days we don't feel as close, know that it cycles and we're growing and we're purifying. And so the next time we feel close to God, we feel a little even closer to God, and it's definitely a journey that unfolds as we're on it. But having the patience is really important. In this blog entry, I was just learning or figuring out how to connect with people to start teaching about Bhakti Yoga, because I'd tried connecting in temples and I just wasn't successful. I just didn't have what I needed at the time for sure. So I decided to start reaching out to other places. But this realization was right before I did that. So here we go. Crawl, walk, and run. The spiritual journey is not a race, but a steady unfolding. First we crawl, then we walk, and eventually run. Each stage teaches us humility, patience, and trust. Growth requires space. If our lives are crowded with attachments, fears, or constant striving, the tender roots of spiritual progress cannot take hold. So when we keep ourselves super busy or pressurized or pushing ourselves, we don't have the softness or the space for that spiritual development to unfold. So that's another reason that it's super important to try and view yourself like as a child and God is like the parent, and know that God is forever patient. Radha and Krishna are forever patient, and they're loving and supportive. And yeah, it's important, because then it allows like more peace inside, more space inside, and more ability to allow your spiritual growth to come in more. So something my teacher Swamiji always told me was, hold on to nothing. This is not about losing what is precious, but about losing our grip on what keeps us bound. When we release the need for control, when we let go of the clutter of the mind and heart, something miraculously happens and space is created. And see, this is where that space comes in. And in that space, Krishna comes, and Radha. His presence fills the emptiness we once feared, bringing light, peace, and a love that sustains us. Every step, whether crawling, walking, or running, becomes a movement toward Radha and Krishna. So this is where I found it really helpful to see them as the parent and me as the kid. Because there'd be some days that I would feel like I really messed something up, and I may have, right? But they're so patient and so supportive. They would come in and be like, it's okay, in meditation, and they would tell me it's okay. And they would pick me up and dust me off. So like a little kid. And they'd pick my little tricycle up or whatever and set it back on its wheels and get me back on the rails and then get me moving forward again and help me not get stuck in being hard on myself for not doing something well enough or great enough. And it's amazing. Yeah. So that was pretty much the realization I had from that meditation and that blog entry. So here's the next blog entry. Here we go. Blog entry 162. And now this is from February 1st of 2025. Okay. I'm in Phoenix now, working on finding my flow. Part of that is staying active, phoning different kinds of places around town to explore possibilities for setting up Bhakti events. It feels like a new way to step out and share while also trusting Krishna to guide the right connections. At the same time, I'm learning how to balance activity with stillness. It's easy to get caught up in busyness, but I don't want to lose sight of what Krishna is already doing around me. In meditation, I can feel his love wrapping around me, reminding me that it's not just about making phone calls or arranging events. It's about staying in his presence and letting his plan unfold. The balance feels like the real work, acting with effort, yet resting in Krishna, reaching outward, yet remembering that everything comes from him. And so at this point, I had decided that I needed to just try all of the doors possible. And Krishna would have the doors open that he wanted to open, and the doors that aren't meant to open wouldn't. And it helped me get a feel for what pleased Krishna and what was part of the journey. Some of the doors opened, some were really effective, some worked out, some not so effective. But each way and every time I would learn something new and I would continue to grow. And then I kind of got the idea that crystal shops and metaphysical stores would be into guided meditation. And I could relate to a lot of the people there because I have a little bit of knowledge about crystals and energies and healings and things like that, a little enough to connect with people. And so Krishna brought me a way to connect with people. And so that was really amazing. And so I started calling like those little metaphysical shops and yoga studios and healing centers. And it was nice. And it's moving along. And I'm still phoning the same places and yoga studios and setting up the little Bhakti events. But it is important, again, the first blog entry was about sort of viewing ourselves as a kid and being patient with ourselves, right? And allow ourselves a learning curve. The second one is about when we do get a direction and we can go in that direction, we have to be really careful not to go in that direction so much we become ritualistic and we're not spending the time with the love and the emotion and the sharing with Radha and Krishna. Currently, in my meditation, I had been too busy again, because that's something I struggle with. And so Krishna was telling me in meditation, he was saying, you're not giving me the space I need to do what I need to do to bring you more of what you need. And as I was zooming along for a while, I didn't quite get that, But then as I started to slow down, this softness, this tangible softness started forming around me. And then it started like spreading. And the bubble that I'd been in got bigger and bigger. And then I got distracted again because that's what happens. And it shrunk. And that softness left. And I'm like, wow, that softness is really nice. So it took a few days and I was meditating on it more. And that softness came back even more. Well, then more Krishna came in, right? So Krishna is like inside me, with me, and outside of me. But more so moving more and more inside of me. And the fact that he's in both is incredible. But it's the same thing that we're talking about, right? Had I not slowed down and listened and held that space and felt that softness to make more space for it, I would still be zooming and missing the point. So again, it's important to hold space, know there's a learning curve, and be careful not to get caught into the too busy, doing too much, because it's about the love and it's about connecting. All right, well, that's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for following along. If you're in the Tucson area on January 25th, please stop by. It would be great to meet y'all, and we can do some meditation and some kirtan music, which is fantastic. And yeah, other than that, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. Radhe, 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 Radhe. Radhe, 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 Radhe. Radhe, Radhe.